might need to just tweak this a little bit. How is it sounding? How are you all doing today? Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Ba ba ba. Blub 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 blub. Blub 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 blub. I hope you are doing well tonight. I'm just finishing this, and then I'll be ready for some redeems and do some little bits. Ba 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 ba. Blub 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 blub. Okay, so tonight I have a book that I can start reading. I also have The Return of the Blubblebores and the Wooden Frog and the Slug. We have those, as well as again I have a book which I will review in a moment, and again I can also do tabbies, and I've switched the filter so that I can do the head scratches as well, like so. I think the filter might have moved just there. Sorry. Is my filter moving? I just need to check something. No, it's not. It was just me being silly, as usual. So... I'm just going to start off by doing a couple of little triggers just to warm up, because my voice isn't quite there yet, which is why I'm still whispering and not soft spoken, because I've pretty much had a long day in work today, so my voice is a little tired. But after yesterday I had to I got home, and I think I got home, sat on my sofa, and I closed my eyes over for what seems like minutes, but 2 hours went by, and I was like, oh, okay, I was tired, I was that tired. So yeah, it was a bit of an evening, let's just say. I woke up at, I think, just after 9:30, and decided to play a couple little games before going straight to bed because I was still super tired. And of course today at work was quite the intensive experience, so I've been just trying to do my best each day and hope that we have a nice comfy time today. I like doing this. The filter's so nice in terms of a feel. It feels so nice just to gently rub it as such. It feels like patting a cute puppy. That's what it feels like. But of course I can't do this for too long because my arms go very weird. I'm just going to move into the blub balls. My model doesn't like it when I do this. There we are. My model's going a bit weird. Also from last time around, I changed the volume of the background because I happened to notice that the background was quite loud last time around. So I made an adjustment where it's quietened down a little bit more. So yes. For now, since we're all a little bit nicely warmed up, I don't know if this is audible, but I have a few books from my childhood, which I got new versions of as well. Now, if you were years ago now. It's got to be closing in on 2.5 years. Yeah, it's going to be about 2.5. Yeah, actually about 3 years now. Yeah, 3 years because my affiliate anniversary is coming up in January. So it was around about April 22 where I actually tried a stream like this, where I read from this book in particular. It is Stormbreaker by Anthony Horowitz, the same person that writes the modern James Bond books. And this is his first book that he wrote with the main character Alex Rider as the character. Bit of a teenage James Bond / Clark Kent style character. Schoolboy by day, secret agent by night. Effectively. And this is the first book in a series. And I happen to have 11 other books. I don't exactly know how many of them there are, but I have 11 of them. And I know there's also a book with like 4 short stories in there as well. So, we can begin. Looks like there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 books at least. There's 13 of those books, and then there is also the Diamond Brothers books, which is kind of like the old film noir style. But yeah. So this was from 2000. The year 2000 this book was written. I'll try to keep the page volume low. Now, would you prefer I read in a soft-spoken voice or in my whisper? What would your preferences be? I don't know if asking is going to make any difference. Okay. So I will read from the book. When the doorbell rings at 3 in the morning, it's never good news. Alex Rider was woken by the first chime. His eyes flickered open, but for a moment he stayed completely still in his bed, lying on his back with his head resting on the pillow. He heard a bedroom door open and a creak of wood as somebody went downstairs. The bell rang a second time, and he looked at the alarm clock glowing beside him. 3:02 a.m. There was a rattle as someone slid the security chain off the front door. He rolled out of bed and walked over to the open window, his bare feet passing down on the carpet pile. The moonlight spilled onto his chest and shoulders. Alex was 14, already well built with the body of an athlete. His hair, cut short, apart from 2 thick strands hanging over his forehead, was fair. His eyes were brown and serious. For a moment he stood silently, half hidden in the shadow, looking out. There was a police car parked outside. From his second floor window, Alex could see the black ID number on the roof and the caps of the two men who were standing in front of the door. The porch light went on, and at the same time the door opened. Mrs. Ryder? No, I'm the housekeeper. What is it? What's happened? This is the home of Mr. Ian Ryder. Yes. I wonder if we could come in. And Alex already knew. He knew from the way the police stood there. Awkward and unhappy. But he also knew from the tone of their voices. Funeral voices. That was how he would describe them later. The sort of voices people use when they come to tell you that someone close to you has died. He went to his door and opened it. He could hear the two policemen talking down in the hall, but only some of the words reached him. A car accident. Called the ambulance. Intensive care. Nothing anyone could do. So sorry. It was only hours later, sitting in the kitchen, watching as the grey light of morning bled slowly through their West London streets, that Alex could try to make sense of what had happened. His uncle, Ian Ryder, was dead. Driving home, his car had been hit by a lorry at Old Street roundabout, and he had been killed almost instantly. He hadn't been wearing a seatbelt, the police said. Otherwise, he might have had a chance. Alex thought of a man who had been his only relation for as long as he could remember. He had never known his own parents. They had died in an accident. A plane crash, a few weeks after he had been born. He had been brought up by his father's brother, never uncle, Ian Ryder. Had hated that word. And had spent most of his 14 years in the same terraced house in Chelsea, London, between the King's Road and the river. But it was only now Alex realised just how little he knew about the man. A banker. People said Alex looked quite like him. Ian Ryder was always travelling, a quiet, private man who liked good wine, classical music and books, who didn't seem to have any girlfriends. In fact, he didn't seem to have any friends at all. He had kept himself fit, had never smoked, and had dressed expensively. But that wasn't enough. That wasn't a picture of a life. It was only a thumbnail sketch. Excuse me. Are you all right, Alex? A young woman had come into the room. She was in her late 20s with a sprawl of red hair and a round, boyish face. Jack Starbright was American. She had come to London as a student 7 years ago, rented a room in the house in return for light housework and babysitting duties, and had stayed on to become a housekeeper and one of Alex's closest friends. Sometimes he wondered what Jack was short for. Jackie? Jacqueline? Neither of them suited her, and although he had once asked, she had never said. Alex nodded. What do you think will happen? He asked. What do you mean? To the house? To me? To you? I don't know, she shrugged. I guess Ian would have made a will. He'll have left instructions. Maybe we should look in his office. Yes, but not today, Alex. Let's take it one step at a time. Ian's office was a room running the full length of the house, high up at the top. It was the only room that was always locked. Alex had only been in there 3 or 4 times, never on his own. When he was younger, he had fantasized that there might be something strange up there, a time machine or a UFO, but it was only an office with a desk, a couple of filing cabinets, shelves full of papers and books. Bank stuff, that's what Ian said. Even so, Alex wanted to go up there now, because it had never been allowed. The police said he wasn't wearing his seatbelt. Alex turned to look at Jack. She nodded. Yes, that's what they said. Doesn't that seem strange to you? You know how careful he was. He always wore his seatbelt. He wouldn't even drive me around the corner without making me put mine on. Jack thought for a moment, then shrugged. Yeah, it's strange, she said. But that must have been the way it was. Why would the police have lied? The day dragged on. Alex hadn't gone to school, even though secretly he had wanted to. He would have preferred to escape back into normal life, the clang of a bell, the crowds of familiar faces, instead of sitting there, trapped inside the house. But he had to be there for the visitors who came throughout the morning and the rest of the afternoon. There were 5 of them. A solicitor who knew nothing about a will, but seemed to have been charged with organising the funeral. A funeral director who had been recommended by the solicitor. A vicar, tall, elderly, who seemed disappointed that Alex didn't look more upset. A neighbour from across the road. How did she even know that anyone had died? And finally, a man from the bank. All of us at the Royal in General are deeply shocked, he said. He was in his 30s, wearing a polyester suit with a Marks and Spencer's tie. He had the sort of face you forgot even while you were looking at it, and had introduced himself as Crawley from personnel. Well, if there's anything we can do, what will happen? Alex asked for the second time that day. You don't have to worry, Crawley said. The bank will take care of everything. That's my job. You leave everything to me. The day passed. Alex killed a couple of hours in the evening playing his PlayStation, and then felt vaguely guilty when Jack caught him out it. But what else was he to do? Later on, she took him to a Burger King. He was allowed to get out of the house, but the two of them barely spoke. Alex assumed Jack would have to go back to America. She certainly couldn't stay in London forever, so who would look after him? Sorry, 2 seconds. Okay. She couldn't stay in London forever, so who would look after him? By law, he was still too young to look after himself. His whole future looked so uncertain that he preferred not to talk about it. He preferred not to talk at all. And then the day of the funeral arrived, and Alex found himself dressed in a dark jacket, preparing to leave in a black car that had come from nowhere. I lost it again, sorry. Surrounded by people who he had never met. Ian Ryder was buried in the Brompton Cemetery on the Fulham Road, just in the shadow of Chelsea Football Ground. And Alex knew where he would have preferred to have been on that Wednesday afternoon. About 30 people had turned up, but he hardly recognised any of them. A grave had been dug close to the lane that ran the length of the cemetery, and as the service began, a black Rolls Royce drew up. The back door opened, and a man got out. Alex watched him as he walked forward and stopped. Overhead, a plane coming in to land at Heathrow momentarily blotted out the sun. Alex shivered. There was something about the new arrival that made his skin crawl. And yet the man was ordinary to look at. Grey suit, grey hair, grey lips, and grey eyes. His face was expressionless, the eyes behind the square, gunmetal spectacles completely empty. Perhaps that was what disturbed Alex. Whoever this man was, he seemed to have less life than anyone in the cemetery, above or below ground. Someone tapped Alex on the shoulder and he turned around to see Mr. Crawley leaning over him. That's Mr. Blunt, the personnel manager whispered. He's the chairman of a bank. Alex's eyes travelled past Blunt and over to the Rolls Royce. 2 more men had come with him, one of them the driver. They were wearing identical suits, and although it wasn't a particularly bright day, sunglasses. Both of them were watching the funeral with the same grim faces. Alex looked from them to Blunt, and then to the other people who had come to the cemetery. Had they really known Ian Ryder? Why had he never met any of them before? And why did he find it so difficult to believe that any of them really worked for a bank? A good man, a patriotic man. He will be missed. Hello, Desi. Hello. Hello. Thank you. Thank you. It means a lot to hear that or see that. Ow. I just dropped my phone on me. Ow. Thank you. I'm very self-conscious with my voice, even when I'm soft speaking like this. So to see that, it means a lot. Thank you. How are you doing today? I hope you had a good day. If you would like any triggers, feel free to redeem them as well while I'm reading, and I will come around to them when I get a break in the book. I'm actually already on page 16 of the book. I started on page 9, so I've done quite a few pages already. I forget how quickly I can read. Like if I'm if I when I was at university, I learned how to skim read, so I could pick out information and just looking and scanning the pages, and I could go through like 20, 30 pages in about 2 to 3 minutes just by scan reading. I keep forgetting that like if I'm actually reading out loud, I also can read pretty quickly. Oh, I'm not smart, but it was something I needed to learn to do if I was going to get through so much of the materials that I had to go through when I was at uni. Like some of the books that I was reading were 700 to 800 pages long, and I had to try and pick out information to use in essays from all of those books, like within like 2 to 3 weeks for one of my assignments. So there was a very good chance that I like if I just read them normally, I would not have had the material needed to do the essays. So yeah, like with my my dissertation did put me off of reading for quite a long time because I did have to read a lot of stuff, loads of primary sources and secondary sources, and I think in the 12 weeks I read through something like about 40 books, and I got to see maybe about 70 pages of blueprints and 80 odd pages of documentation that explained each one. So it did put me off reading for quite a while after, but I started reading again during COVID, and I do read here and there as well. But this is like apart from a couple years ago where I did a stream where I read these pages in a book. Apart from that, I haven't read a huge amount. But I felt I wanted to read these books, like the Alex Rider books, because these are books I grew up with. They are books that got me really interested in reading in general. Like I used to think most books were boring when I was a really young kid. So when this came out in like 2000, 2001, I started reading them and it was amazing. These books were so good. And it's good to see that Anthony Horowitz went on to become the official author of the James Bond books as well, because the books that he's written with James Bond has been amazing as well. And I've got 11 of the 13 known Alex Rider books, at least. So, I will continue, because I've still not finished the first chapter yet. I've got a couple pages left of it. The vicar had finished his graveside address. His choice of words struck Alex as odd. Patriotic? That meant he loved this country. But as far as Alex knew, Ian Ryder had barely spent any time in it. Certainly he had never been one for waving the Union Jack. He looked round, hoping to find Jack, but saw instead that Blunt was making his way towards him, stepping carefully round the grave. Ooh, paranormal romance novels. Those, like, I do know one of the first ones was obviously Dracula. Dracula would have been one of those from Bram Stoker, because of course, like, vampires are seen as paranormal beings. You must be Alex. The chairman was only a little taller than him. Close to, his skin was strangely unreal. It could have been made of plastic. My name is Alan Blunt, he said. Your uncle often spoke about you. That's funny, Alex said. He never mentioned you. His grey lips twitched briefly. We'll miss him. He was a good man. What was he good at? Alex asked. He never talked about his work. Suddenly Crawley was there. Your uncle was overseas finance manager, Alex, he said. He was responsible for our foreign branches. You must have known that. I know he travelled a lot, Alex said, and I know he was very careful about things like seatbelts. Well, sadly, he wasn't careful enough. Blunt's eyes, magnified by the thick lenses of his spectacles, lasered into his own, and for a moment Alex felt himself pinned down, like an insect under the microscope. I hope we'll meet again, Blunt went on. He tapped the side of his face with a single grey finger. Yes. Then he turned and went back to his car. It was as he was getting into a Rolls Royce that it happened. The driver leaned across to open the back door and his jacket fell open, revealing the shirt underneath. And not just the shirt. The man was wearing a leather holster with an automatic pistol strapped inside. Alex saw it even as the man, realizing what had happened, quickly straightened up and pulled the jacket across his chest. Blunt had seen it too. He turned back and looked again at Alex. Something very close to emotion slithered over his face. Then he got into the car, closed the door, and he was gone. A gun at a funeral? Why? Why would a bank manager carry a gun? Let's get out of here. Suddenly Jack was at his side. Cemeteries give me the creeps. Yes, and quite a few creeps have turned up, Alex muttered. They slipped away quietly and went home. The car that had taken him to the funeral was still waiting, but they preferred the open air. The walk took them 15 minutes. As they turned a corner into their street, Alex noticed the removals van parked in front of the house. The words Stryker and Son painted on its side. What's that doing? He began. At the same moment, the van shot off, its wheels skidding over the surface of a road. Alex said nothing as Jack unlocked the door and let them in, but while she went into the kitchen to make some tea, he looked quickly round the house. A letter that had been on a hall table now lay on the carpet. A door that had been half open was now closed. Tiny details, but Alex's eyes missed nothing. Somebody had been in the house. He was almost sure of it. But he wasn't certain until he got to the top floor. The door to the office, which had always been locked, was unlocked now. Alex opened it and went in. The room was empty. Ian Ryder had gone, and so had everything else. The desk drawers, the cupboards, the shelves, anything that might have told him about the dead man's work had been taken. Alex! Jack was calling to him from downstairs. Alex took one last look around the forbidden room, wondering again about the man who had once worked there. Then he closed the door, and he went back down. That's the first chapter finished. How are you faring, guys? How are you faring? It took me 20 minutes to get through that, which is quite nice. It's quite good. Yes, it's a very good book. Like this is the very first book in the series where it introduces the character of Alex Rider, and of course it's a little bit of a depressing first chapter because because of course it involves the death of a relative. But yes, so I will continue to read. I'll go through. Just looking now. What thing there? Of course. Of course. Okay, I'll bookmark the book for a minute. Okay, I put a slight noise suppressor on as well, so you didn't hear absolutely everything I was doing as well. Because like with a noise suppression off, like as soon as I creaked my chair, the mic was picking it up. So I just put a teeny little hint of noise suppression on. Now, there's two ways I can do this for you. I can just speak into the microphone, or I can simulate giving head pats where I can run my hands through the microphone's filter and it's like head scratchies. What would you prefer? And also, is there a specific name you'd prefer me to call you by as well? Like Desi or. Yeah. Because I'm pretty terrible with names, to be absolutely honest. All of it. You want all of it. Desi's fine. Okay. Oh. How is this sounding for now? Desi. 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 You're a very, very good girl. You're such a good girl, Desi. Such a good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Good, 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 good girl. Such a good girl. I'm so proud of you. You've done so well today. You're such a good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. I hope you enjoyed that one. My hands go a bit funny after doing this a little bit because the filter's quite fluffy, so it makes my hands go a bit funny. I think it dries it out a little bit, so yeah. But I switched my filter today to the fluffy one, and I think it was a good call. Because I normally run the normal pot filter. Okay. No problem, no problem. If I get to tell you the truth for a redeem, then I get to take pleasure in doing that. Remind you to send me an audio in return. You don't have to do that. You don't have to. Again, if it's a chance for me to tell you the truth, then I'm very happy to do so. Okay, so we are at chapter 2, Heaven for Cars. With Hammersmith Bridge just ahead of him, Alex left the river and swung his bike through the lights and down the hill towards Brooklyn School. The bike was a Condor Junior road racer, custom built for him on his 12th birthday. It was a teenager's bike with a cut-down Renault 531 frame, but the wheels were full-size so he could ride at speed with hardly any rolling resistance. He spun past the Mini and cut through the school gates. He would be sorry when he grew out of a bike. For 2 years now, it had almost been part of him. He double-locked it in the shed and went into the yard. Brooklyn was a new comprehensive, red brick and glass, modern and ugly. Alex could have gone to any of the smart private schools around Chelsea, but Ian Ryder had decided to send him here. He had said it would be more of a challenge. The first lesson of the day was maths. When Alex came into the classroom, the teacher, Mr. Donovan, was already scribbling on a whiteboard, setting out a complicated equation. It was hot in the room, the sunlight streaming in through the floor-to-ceiling I can't talk. Jeez. The floor-to-ceiling windows, put in by architects who should have known better. As Alex took his place near the back, he wondered how he was going to get through the lesson. How could he possibly think about algebra when there were so many other questions churning through his mind? The gun at the funeral, the way Blunt had looked at him, the van with Stryker and Son written on the side, the empty office, and the biggest question of all, the one detail that refused to go away, that seatbelt. Ian Ryder hadn't been wearing a seatbelt, but of course he had. Ian Ryder had never been one to give lectures. He had always said Alex should make up his own mind about things, but he had had this thing about seatbelts. The more Alex thought about it, the less he believed in it. A collision at a roundabout. Suddenly he wished he could see the car. At least, the wreckage would tell him that the accident had really happened, that Ian Ryder really had died that way. Alex looked up and realized everyone was staring at him. Mr. Donovan had just asked him something. He quickly scanned the whiteboard, taking in the figures. Yes, sir, he said. X equals 7 and Y is 15. The maths teacher sighed. Yes, Alex, you're absolutely right. But actually, I was just asking you to open a window. Of course. Such a brainy boy. Somehow he had managed to get through the rest of the day, but by the time the final bell rang, his mind was made up. While everyone else steamed out, he made his way to the secretary's office and borrowed a local directory. What are you looking for? The secretary asked. Jane Bedfordshire was a young woman in her 20s, and she'd always had a soft spot for Alex. Breakers yards. Alex flicked through the pages. If a car got smashed up near Old Street, they'd take it somewhere nearby, wouldn't they? I suppose so. Here. Alex had found the yards listed under car dismantlers, but there were dozens of them fighting for attention over 4 pages. Is this for a school project? The secretary asked. She knew Alex had lost a relative, but not how. Sort of. Alex was reading the addresses, but they told him nothing. This one's quite near Old Street. Miss Bedfordshire pointed out the corner of a page. Wait! Alex tugged a book towards him and looked at the entry underneath the one the secretary had chosen. J.B. Stryker, Heaven for Cars. J.B. Stryker, Auto Breakers, Lambeth Walk, London. Telephone 020-7123-5392. Call us today. That's in Vauxhall, Miss Bedfordshire said. Not too far from here, I know. But Alex had recognized the name, J.B. Stryker. He had thought back to the van he had seen outside his house on the day of the funeral. Stryker and Son. Of course, it might just be a coincidence, but it was still somewhere to start. He closed the book. I'll see you, Miss Bedfordshire. Be careful how you go. The secretary watched Alex leave, wondering why she had said that. Maybe it was his eyes, dark and serious. There was something dangerous there. Then the phone rang, and she forgot him as she went back to work. J.B. Stryker's was a square of wasteland behind the railway tracks running out of Waterloo Station. The area was enclosed by a high brick wall topped with broken glass and razor wire. 2 wooden gates hung open, and from the other side of a road Alex could see a shed with a security window, and beyond it the tottering piles of dead and broken cars. Everything of any value had been stripped away, and only the rusting carcasses remained, heaped one on top of the other, waiting to be fed into the crusher. There was a guard sitting in the shed, reading the Sun. In the distance, the crane coughed into life and roared down on a battered Ford Mondeo, its metal claw smashing through the window to scoop up the vehicle and carry it away. A phone rang somewhere in the shed, and the guard turned round to answer it. That was enough for Alex. Holding his bike and wheeling it along beside him, he sprinted through the gates. He found himself surrounded by dirt and debris. The smell of diesel was thick in the air, and the roar of the engines was deafening. Alex watched as a crane swooped down on another of the cars, seized it into a metallic grip, and dropped it into a crusher. For a moment the car rested on a pair of shelves. Then the shelves lifted up, toppling the car over and down into a trough. The operator, sitting in a glass cabin at one end of the crusher, pressed a button, and there was a great belch of black smoke. The shelves closed in on the car like a monster insect folding in its wings. There was a grinding sound as the car was crushed until it was no bigger than a rolled-up carpet. Then the operator threw a gear, and the car was squeezed out. Metallic toothpaste being chopped up by a hidden blade, the slices tumbled onto the ground. Leaving his bike propped up against the wall, Alex ran further into the yard, crouching down behind the wrecks. With a din from the machines, there was no chance that anyone would hear him, but he was still afraid of being seen. He stopped to catch his breath, drawing a grimy hand across his face. His eyes were watering from the diesel fumes. The air was filthy as the ground beneath him. He was beginning to regret coming, but then he saw it. His uncle's BMW was parked a few meters away, separated from the other cars. At first glance, it looked absolutely fine. The metallic silver bodywork not even scratched. Certainly. Thank you. Oh, I'm going to be hit by this for a while. I don't think you guys can hear it, but thank you. Thank you so much. I need to show my support. And when I can, and keeping it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. You get to do some fishing as well. I am actually being hit by where is it actually? I think I haven't put tits on. Whoop. I've actually forgotten to put tits on. There we go. It's working now. I completely forgot to put this on. This here. Thank you so much again. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. My eyes are starting to dry up a little bit as well because I think I'm getting tired. Where was this? Okay, yeah, there we go. Thank you. I enjoyed your big bitties. Over here, that actually means yeah. So there's a show over here called Little Britain. About 20 years ago, that was running through its series, and there was one character on there that was a grown guy, and he kept asking Bitty, and it was basically he wanted to be fed his mum's. Yeah, he was a grown man still being breastfed. Yes, it was weird. British comedy is weird. It was so weird. It was so surreal at the same time. Yes. Okay. There we go. Hey, if you like both, that's fine too. I mean, I'm always impartial to a little bit of that. I am a red-blooded man after all. Bonk. 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 Need to ban myself from here. This is why this is an 18 plus stream. Right. Oh dear me. Right. I try not to yawn too much because I'm sending myself to sleep doing this. I'm either very boring or very comfy. Certainly there was no way this car could have been involved in a fatal collision with a lorry or anything else, but it was his uncle's car. Alex recognized the number plate. He hurried closer. It was then he saw that the car was damaged after all. The windscreen had been smashed, along with all the windows on one side. Alex made his way around the bonnet. He reached the other side and froze. Yeah, the bonk. Bonk. Ian Ryder hadn't died in any accident. What had killed him was plain to see, even to someone who had never seen such a thing before. A spray of bullets had caught the car full on the driver's side, shattering the front tire, then smashing the windscreen and side windows and punching into the side panels. Alex ran his fingers over the holes. The metal felt cold against his flesh. Here's my bonk. Yep. I will probably put a bonk redeem on at some point, but yeah. I think if you do the ban redeem and ban me, it like pops up, but although the ban redeem, I think I've turned off for ASMR because it keeps on popping. It pops up and it makes a lot of noise. So yeah. The metal felt cold against his flesh. He opened the door and looked inside. The front seats, pale grey leather, were strewn with fragments of broken glass and stained with patches of dark brown. He didn't need to ask what the stains were. He could see everything. Don't worry, you get bonked all the time in your chat because you're very flirty and sus. Oh no, you're sus. So sus. We're always sus though, aren't we? It's fun to be sus. He could see everything, the flash of a machine gun, the bullets ripping into his car, Ian Ryder jerking in the driver's seat. But why? Why kill a bank manager? And why had the murder been covered up? It was the police they brought the news, so he must be part of it. Had they deliberately lied? None of it made sense. Should have got rid of it 2 days ago. Do it now. The machines must have stopped for a moment. If it hadn't been a sudden lull, Alex would never have heard the men coming. Quickly he looked across the steering wheel and out the other side. There were two of them, both dressed in loose-fitting overalls. Alex had a feeling he'd seen him before, at the funeral. One of them was the driver, the man he had seen with a gun. He was sure of it. Whoever they were only a few paces away from the car, talking in low voices. Another few steps and they would be there. Without thinking, Alex threw himself into the only hiding place available, inside the car itself. Using his foot, he hooked the door and closed it. At the same time, he became aware that the machines had started again, and he could no longer hear the men. He didn't dare to look up. A shadow fell across the window as the two men passed. But then, they were gone. He was safe. And then something hit the BMW with such force that Alex cried out. His whole body caught in a massive shockwave that tore him away from the steering wheel and threw him helplessly into the back. At the same time, the roof buckled and three huge metal fingers tore through the skin of the car like a fork through an eggshell. trailing dust and sunlight. One of her fingers grazed the side of his head. Any closer and it would have cracked his skull. Alex yelled as blood trickled over his eye. He tried to move, then was jerked back a second time as the car was yanked off the ground and tilted high up in the air. He couldn't see, he couldn't move, but his stomach lurched as the car swung in an arc, the metal grinding and the lights spinning. It had been picked up by the crane. It was going to be put inside the crusher, with him inside. He tried to raise himself up, to punch through the windows, but the claw of a crane had already flattened the roof, pinning his left leg, perhaps even breaking it. He could feel nothing. He lifted a hand and managed to pound on the back window, but he couldn't break the glass, and even where the workmen were staring at the BMW, they would never see anything moving inside. His short flight across the breaker's yard ended with a bone-shattering crash as the crane deposited the car on the iron shelves of a crusher. Alex tried to fight back his sickness and despair and think of what to do. He'd seen a car being processed only a few minutes before. Any moment now, the operator would send a car tipping into the coffin-shaped trough. The machine was a Lafort shear, a slow-motion guillotine. At the press of a button, the two wings were closed on the car with a joint pressure of 500 tons. The car with Alex inside it would be crushed beyond recognition, and the broken metal and flesh would then be chopped into sections. Nobody would ever know what had happened. He tried with all his strength to free himself, but the roof was too low. His leg and part of his back were trapped. Then his whole world tilted, and he felt himself falling into darkness. The shelves had lifted. The BMW slid to one side and fell a few meters into the trough. Alex felt the metalwork collapsing all around him. The back window exploded and glass showered around his head, dust and diesel fumes punching into his nose and eyes. There was hardly any daylight now, but looking out of the back, he could see the huge steel head of a piston that would push what was left of the car through the exit hole on the other side. Thank you for the redeem. I will go on to that. Wooden froggies. Okay, I've still yet to master this, so bear with me on this one. The others I'm kind of on board with, but this one I'm still getting used to. How are you doing today, Callie? How are you? You know, I've only just realised I didn't have my mic set to binaural. Whoops. I wondered why it wasn't coming through the right way. Okay, that's much louder coming from here, so that's probably why the blub blub balls weren't coming through very loud either. Blub 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 blub. Okay, here we are, the blub blub balls. It's my favourite trigger, to be honest. I hope this is coming through okay. Need to check something. Just about, okay. I know this is a bit of a quieter one and my mic's up quite loud. So maybe I need like a gain booster or something. I'm putting this as close to the mic as I dare go as well, without touching it. Yeah, I also moved the, I've changed the polar pattern of my mic as well. I forgot I had it on cardioid. I thought I'd had it on stereo, but it was on cardioid. So, how are you doing today, Callie? How are you? I've just been reading through some Stormbreaker by Anthony Horowitz. I'm halfway through the second chapter at the moment. I don't know how much more I'm going to be able to read because my eyes are starting to go quite weird. You love that series? Yes. I grew up with it, and I've got 11 of the 13 books at the moment. I'm doing. You tired? No. Okay. Let's get comfy then. I'll do some more soft speaking reading, and hope that chills you all out, and means that you're all comfy. What does shark do? Ooh. So the slug toy. Okay, there's 2 of them. So you chose the shark. Okay. Now I happen to know the shark is a little quieter than the slug, but it's a little clicky toy. Oh, that was very loud. Sorry. This is one of these that I'm still getting used to as well. Like the blubber balls I got pretty much to a T. And of course my own vocal. So I don't know if you can hear this moving around. That was probably quite loud, sorry. The shark is quite unpredictable. And I got no limiter on, so yeah, I probably blew your ears off there, sorry. There we go. A little bit of shark. So I got the slug here as well. So yeah, so I got the blubber balls, I've got the wooden froggies, the slugs, I've got something I can tap stuff. I did have stress balls, but the stress balls aren't loud enough on this mic. They don't really do anything. Like unless I'm really trying to make as much noise as possible on it, like it really doesn't come through. So yeah. So I got reading. I also have some vocal triggers as well, and I also offer to suggest a trigger as well if it's within my power. Oh dear, right. Oh. Got my phone's blowing up. Why is it blowing up so much? Oh dear. Okay, so I will read a little bit more and then I think I will start thinking about finishing up, because my ASMR streams are only going to be like between 1 and maybe 2 hours, so depending on how I'm feeling. And today I'm a little bit more tired and sleepy, so I will probably read to the end of this chapter and then we'll maybe the next chapter as well, because I've just realised the next chapter, the chapter ends very soon, and then we'll have a look at sending to more comfy. The engine tone of a Lefort shear changed as it prepared for the final act. The metal wings shuddered. In a few seconds' time, the two of them would meet, crumpling the BMW like a paper bag. Alex pulled with all of his strength and was astonished when his leg came free. It took him perhaps a second, one precious second, to work out what had happened. And when the car had fallen into the trough, it had landed on its side. The roof had buckled again, enough to free him. His hand scrabbled for the door, but of course that was useless. The doors were too bent. They would never open. The back window! With a glass gone, he could crawl through the frame, but only if he moved fast. The wings began to move. The BMW screamed as two walls of solid steel relentlessly crushed it. Glass shattered. One of the wheel axles snapped with the sound of a thunderbolt. Thunderbolts and lightning, very, very frightening me. Galileo, Galileo. The darkness closed in. Alex grabbed hold of what was left of the back seat. Ahead of him, he could see a single triangle of light shrinking faster and faster. With all his strength, he surged forward, finding some sort of purchase on the gear column. He could feel the weight of the two walls pressing down on him. Behind him, the car was no longer a car, but the fist of some hideous monster snatching at the insect that he had become. Ooh, some tappies. Okay. I have a phone to tap, or I have a phone case to tap. What would you like? Phone case or phone? I could possibly even do the book. Because I have a case. The phone? Okay. So, the phone. I just need to break it out of my case. Oh, God. Ow. Maybe I should mute the mic first. See, it sounds a bit different, doesn't it? My nails are now up against metal rather than plastic. Just gotta be gentler. figured out how much I need to do. Don't hurt myself. No, it's okay. I just snapped back a little bit unexpectedly, and I was worried it had made too much noise. At some point, I'd love to have one of those 3DO mics, so then I can do a little bit of like more intensive ear stuff as well. Because I'm limited to what I can do with a Yeti, which I enjoy doing this. But there's a little bit more I'd like to do, but unfortunately I have bills to pay. I have a mortgage to pay. And I do this on the side of my normal job, so yeah. I must prioritize what I can, or what I have to have. Okay, so I just need to find where I was, and we'll continue on for a bit. His shoulders passed through the triangle, out into the light, but his legs were still inside. You want to get the 3DO as well? Yes, same here. It's on my phone wish list because it's like my wish list has got things that I kind of want to get and will it probably eventually get, but like it's there if anybody is mad enough to spoil me on it. But yeah, it's just there as a bit of a shopping list for me. His legs were still inside. If his foot snagged on something, he would be squeezed into two pieces. Alex yelled out loud and jerked his knee forward. His legs came clear, then his feet, but at the last moment his shoe caught on the closing triangle and disappeared back into the car. Alex imagined he heard the sound of a lever being squashed, but that was impossible. Clinging to the black, oily surface of the observation platform at the back of the crusher, he dragged himself clear and managed to stand up. He found himself face to face with a man so fat he could barely fit into the small cabin of the crusher. The man's stomach was pressed against the glass, his shoulders squeezed into the corners. A cigarette dangled in his lower lip as his mouth fell open and his eyes stared. In front of him was a boy in the rags of what had once been a school uniform. A whole sleeve had been torn off and his arm, streaked with blood and oil, hung limply by his side. By the time the operator had taken all this in, come to his senses and turned the machine off, Alex had gone. He clambered down the side of a crusher, landing on the 1 foot heat that still had a shoe. He was aware now of pieces of jagged metal lying everywhere. If he wasn't careful, he would cut the other foot open. His bicycle was where he had left it, leaning against the wall, and gingerly, half-hopping, he made for it. Behind him, he heard the cabin of a crusher open and a man's voice call out, raising the alarm. At the same time, a second man ran forward, stopping between Alex and his bike. It was the driver, the man he had seen at the funeral. His face, twisted into a hostile frown, was curiously ugly. Greasy hair, watery eyes, pale, lifeless skin. "What do you think?" he began. His hand slid into his jacket. Alex remembered the gun and instantly, without thinking, swung into action. He had started learning karate when he was 6 years old. One afternoon, with no explanation, Ian Ryder had taken him to a local club for his first lesson, and he'd been going there once a week ever since. Over the years, he had passed over various Q grades, but it was only the year before they had become a first grade Dan, a black belt. When he arrived at Brooklyn School, his looks and accent had quickly brought him to the attention of the school bullies, 3 hulking 16-year-olds. They had cornered him once behind a bike shed. The encounter had lasted less than a minute, and after it one of the bullies had left Brooklyn and the other 2 had never troubled anyone again. Now Alex brought up one leg, twisted his body round and lashed out. The back kick, Yusho Genri, is said to be the most lethal in karate. His foot powered into the man's abdomen with such force that he didn't even have time to cry out. His eyes bulged and his mouth half opened in surprise. Then, with his hand halfway into his jacket, he crumbled to the ground. Alex jumped over him, snatched up his bike, and swung himself onto it. In the distance, a third man was running towards him. He heard the single word, "Stop!" called out. Then there was a crack and a bullet whipped past. Alex gripped the handlebars and pedalled as hard as he could. The bike shot forward, over rubble and out through the gates. He took one look over his shoulder. Nobody had followed him. With one shoe on and one shoe off, his clothes in rags and his body streaked with blood and oil, Alex knew he must look a strange sight. But then he thought back to his last seconds inside the crusher and sighed with relief. He could have been looking a lot worse. Okay. Third chapter. Royal and General. How many pages is this? Yeah, okay. I'll go through this chapter. Chapter 3. The bank rang the following day. "This is John Crawley. Do you remember me? Personnel manager at the Royal and General. We were wondering if you could come in." "Come in?" Alex was half dressed, already late for school. "This afternoon. We found some papers of your uncle's. We need to talk to you about your own position." Was there something faintly threatening in the man's voice? "What time this afternoon?" Alex asked. "Could you manage 4:30? We're on Liverpool Street. We can send a cab." "I'll be there," Alex said, "and I'll take the tube." He hung up. "Who was that?" Jack called out from the kitchen. She was cooking breakfast for the two of them. Although how long she could remain with Alex was a growing worry. Her wages hadn't been paid. She had only her own money to buy food and pay for the running of the house. Worse still, her visa was about to expire. Soon, she wouldn't even be allowed to stay in the country. That was the bank. Alex came into the room, wearing his spare uniform. He hadn't told her what had happened at the breaker's yard. He hadn't even told her about the empty office. Jack had enough on her mind. "I'm going there this afternoon," he said. "Do you want me to come?" "No, I'll be fine." He came out of Liverpool Street tube station at just after 4:15 that afternoon, still wearing his school uniform, dark blue jacket, grey trousers, striped tie. He found the bank easily enough. The Royal and General occupied a tall, antique-looking building with a Union Jack fluttering from a pole about 15 floors up. There was a brass nameplate next to the main door, and a security camera swiveling slowly over the pavement. Alex stopped in front of it. For a moment, he wondered if he was making a mistake going in. If the bank had been responsible in some way for Ian Ryder's death, maybe they'd asked him here to arrange his own. No, the bank wouldn't kill him. He didn't even have an account there. He went in. "Yes, he's not even a customer. Don't kill him." That thought process is so weird. In an office on the 17th floor, and the image on the security monitor flickered and changed. The street camera 1 smoothly cut across to reception cameras 2 and 3, and Alex passed from the brightness outside to the cool shadows of the interior. A man sitting behind a desk reached out and pressed a button, and the camera zoomed in until Alex's face filled the screen. "So he came," the chairman of a bank muttered. "That's the boy?" The speaker was a middle-aged woman. She had a strange potato-shaped head, and her black hair looked as though it had been cut using a pair of blunt scissors and an upturned bowl. Her eyes were almost black too. She was dressed in a severe grey suit, and she was sucking a peppermint. "Are you sure about this, Alan?" Which I'd like to stay longer. I have to get the little one from school. "Oh, thank you for coming by, Desi. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Blah, 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 blah. Hope you have a good one." She asked. Alan Blunt nodded. "Oh, yes, quite sure. You know what to do?" This last question was addressed to his driver. He was standing uncomfortably, slightly hunched over. His face was a chalky white. He had been like that ever since he had tried to stop Alex in the breaker's yard. "Yes, sir," he said. "Then do it," Blunt said. His eyes never left the screen. In reception, Alex had asked for a John Crawley, and was sitting on a leather sofa, vaguely wondering why so few people were going in and out. The reception area was wide and airy, with a brown marble floor. 3 elevators to one side, and above a desk, a row of clocks showing the time in every major world city. But it could have been the entrance to anywhere. A hospital, a concert hall, even a cruise liner. The place had no identity of its own. One of the lifts pinged open, and Crawley appeared in his usual suit, but with a different tie. "I'm sorry to have kept you waiting, Alex," he said. "Have you come straight from school?" Alex stood up but said nothing, allowing his uniform to answer the man's question. "Let's go up to my office," Crawley said. He gestured. "We'll take the lift." Alex didn't notice the fourth camera inside the lift, but then it was concealed on the other side of a two-way mirror that covered the black wall. Nor did he see the thermo intensifier next to the camera, but a second machine both looked at him and through him as he stood there, turning him into a pulsating mass of different colours, none of which translated into the cold steel of a hidden gun or knife. In less than the time it took Alex to blink, the machine had passed its information down to a computer, which had instantly evaluated it and sent its own signal back to the circuits that controlled the elevator. "It's okay, he's unarmed. Continue to the 15th floor." "Here we are." Crawley smiled and ushered Alex out into the long corridor with an uncarpeted wooden floor and modern lighting. A series of doors was punctuated by framed paintings, brightly coloured abstracts. "My office is just along here," Crawley pointed the way. It passed 3 doors when Alex stopped. Each door had a nameplate, and this one he recognised. 1504. Ian Ryder. White letters on black plastic. Crawley nodded sadly. "Yes, this is where your uncle worked. He'll be much missed." "Can I go inside?" Alex asked. Crawley seemed surprised. "Why do you want to do that?" "I'd be interested to see where he worked." Okay, I will finish up here. I'm about halfway through the chapter, but my eyes are starting to go now. So I'm going to finish up here. I will see if we can bring our community over to another ASMR artist. So I'm going to have a quick look for same category and following. Let's see. I think we can... we can maybe try and start the raid with... No, it's not working. Raids are still not working. Ugh, I need to sort that out at some point. I can't raid, unfortunately. So we will finish up for tonight. And I hope to see you tomorrow where we play some Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And then hope that we have a good amount of fun. I will see you all later, guys. Have a good night and rest well. Blah 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 blah.